Telepathic activity emerges within humans in several ways. Instinctual telepathy arises from energy exchanges between etheric bodies, using the etheric substance as a medium. The solar plexus area is particularly sensitive, serving as a receiving plate for these energetic impressions. In earlier times, such telepathy was the primary mode of communication, conveying instinctual impressions about survival or reproduction. Even today, it persists in subtle forms, such as the intuitive sense a mother may have of her child's danger. Instinctual telepathy often manifests as energy transfer from solar plexus to solar plexus between two emotionally and instinctively attuned individuals. When the sender's thought contains mental substance, energy may also interact with the recipient's throat center, adding a secondary layer of awareness. This form of communication, also called sympathetic telepathy, produces immediate understanding, awareness of events, and identification with another's feelings and reactions, engaging the lower aspects of the universal mind as its agent. Today, instinctual telepathy remains the dominant mode of communication, yet mental telepathy is steadily growing in prevalence. The throat center plays the primary role in mental telepathy, though the heart center occasionally contributes, and the solar plexus always reacts to some degree. This can create a challenge. Often, the sender transmits via the throat center, while the recipient continues to receive through the solar plexus. Mental telepathy is the establishment of rapport between minds. It encompasses responses to thought forms and the prevailing currents of thought in the world, essentially representing the interplay of transmitted ideas. This form of telepathy is connected to the higher aspects of the universal mind and the intelligent will. Straight mental telepathy is among the highest expressions of the personality, functioning as a bridging faculty toward higher impressions and requiring a relatively advanced stage of mental development. Ironically, strong desire to succeed in telepathic work and fear of failure often hinder progress. In such work, a spirit of detachment, an attitude of don't care is essential. Emotion or personal desire on the part of the receiver generates streams of energy that repel or distort incoming transmissions. When these energy currents are strong, they may even return to the sender, like a boomerang, drawn back by the power of the initial vibration. Cultivating detachment is therefore a necessary qualification for effective telepathic work. Intuitional telepathy develops along the path of the initiate, involving primarily the head and throat centers. 3 centers are active in this process: the head center, receptive to impressions from higher sources; the Ina center, located between the eyebrows, receptive to intuitive impressions; and the throat center, which broadcasts and embodies these impressions. The truly telepathic individual responds to impressions from all forms of life. Among advanced humans, intuitional telepathy is increasingly evident, indicating the awakening of group consciousness. Sensitivity to intuitive impressions arises from concern for the collective, reflecting a broader attunement beyond the personal. Group telepathic work represents an evolutionary step toward cooperative telepathic functioning. Success requires deep love and understanding among group members, along with the development of impersonality. When tuning in on another, one must not react to perceived strengths or weaknesses in a way that disrupts the harmony of the group. The recognition of weaknesses should evoke only compassion and deeper connection. Sustaining group telepathy requires persistent cultivation of strong group love and sensitivity, ensuring that no barrier arises between members and that diagnoses of conditions remain accurate. Any united telepathic effort must be carefully controlled, undertaken selflessly, and free from personality pressure, dogmatism, or bias. Properly directed telepathic work strengthens the recipient's will, clarifies the astral body by reducing glamour, and enhances the vitality and purity of the physical body. The combined potency of a unified group is profound, affirming the maxim that energy follows thought. In some cases, telepathic states can be induced through ingestion of certain substances. Years ago, reports emerged of a Canadian company producing a substance that conferred telepathic abilities, though the government halted its use. Natural substances, however, continue to be noted for enhancing telepathic perception. One such substance is derived from the ayahuasca vine in Brazil, which contains psychoactive alkaloids. One of these, sometimes called telepathin, appears to allow perception of others' thoughts, creating a sense of transparency or mind reading. Notably, ayahuasca exhibits chameleon-like qualities, opening a doorway to various landscapes and connecting individuals to information sources within the animal kingdom. Telepathic sensitivity is a natural outcome when an individual is properly oriented and fully dedicated. If the process is forced, however, development is distorted or incomplete. For those on the path of conscious initiation, freeing oneself from constant preoccupation with personal circumstances allows the mind to release and open, creating spaces of perception that make higher sensitivity possible. This sensitivity arises from the formation of a magnetic aura, a field upon which the highest impressions can play and be received by the mind. This aura begins to develop from the very first contact with the soul and deepens with repeated interactions, eventually becoming a habitual state of consciousness. Sensitivity appears to progress through 3 stages. Initially, the individual perceives impressions from other human beings. As development continues, sensitivity expands to group impressions, allowing one to act as a receptive agent within any collective. Finally, sensitivity reaches hierarchical impressions, drawing insight from higher levels of consciousness. Once the personality is consciously oriented toward mental development, the mental aura grows rapidly. Over time, mental energy may dominate over emotional or astral energy, with the soul's quality of love serving as a balancing substitute. Scientific observations support these processes. Activation of the parasympathetic nervous system, for example, correlates with increased telepathic sensitivity. When activated, it releases more acetylcholine and fosters relaxation, well-being, and even a sense of traveling clairvoyance. Negative ions in the atmosphere can stimulate this system, enhancing telepathic reception, and skeletal muscle activity can also contribute. Studies indicate that breathing patterns affect telepathic scores, with respiration through the left nostril, where charged ions accumulate, boosting results due to a paramagnetic effect on the brain or the expansion of psi plasma. Telepathic reception unfolds in stages. Initially, an impression registers vaguely. As the thought, intention, or idea clarifies, it becomes a distinct thought form, eventually impacting consciousness in the brain, typically near the area between the eyes and the pituitary body, and sometimes in the solar plexus. For those conditioned by personality, the impression itself is key. It integrates into the individual's own energy, reflecting heightened sensitivity to higher impressions. Telepathic sending, by contrast, engages the sympathetic nervous system, linked to the fight or flight response and adrenal activation. This form of telepathy, sometimes called crisis telepathy, occurs under stress, with the message often carrying urgent or biologically significant information. Reports of crisis telepathy abound in folklore and contemporary culture, such as accounts of Titanic survivors sensing danger before the disaster. Evidence suggests that these transmissions are goal-oriented, unaffected by distance, and indifferent to the precise route or method of delivery. Only the result matters. One illustrative case involved a Creole fisherman from New Orleans. While trawling near the Hawaiian Islands, he suffered a severe fall, paralyzing him on deck. Several hours later, a woman 600 miles away suddenly felt a physical impact at the back of her head and experienced an urgent awareness that something bad had happened on the boat. When news later confirmed the accident, the timing matched her impression. The transmission, it seems, bypassed those who were less receptive and reached someone whose cultural and perceptual background made her sensitive to the telepathic signal.